You know, every single day, these absolutely gigantic supertankers, some are longer than aircraft carriers, are moving across our oceans. They're carrying the energy that pretty much powers our entire world. And they dock at these massive facilities built way out in the middle of the sea. But think about it. In a place filled with millions of gallons of flammable liquid, how on earth do you stop one little spark from turning into an absolute catastrophe?
So what does it actually take to fireproof something on that scale? It's a huge question, and the answer isn't some single flashy invention. Nope, it's a rulebook, a super detailed, meticulously crafted blueprint designed to tame one of the most dangerous environments humans have ever built. And believe it or not, we've got our hands on that very blueprint. It's called SAES-B-060. It's a fire protection standard from Saudi Aramco, and this isn't some theoretical paper. It's a real 16-page document that tells engineers exactly how to build and run these places to keep everyone and everything safe.
So here's our plan. We're going to dive into the incredible dangers of these terminals, and then we'll walk through all the layers of protection, starting with the very concrete and steel itself, all the way up to the massive firefighting systems that are always on standby, just in case.
Okay, first, let's really get a feel for this place. We're not just talking about your average port. You have to imagine millions upon millions of gallons of flammable liquid, the immense pressure of a supertanker pushing against the dock, and the wild, unpredictable sea all mashed together. The stakes here are just unbelievably high.
And a lot of these places are what engineers call a sea island. As the document puts it, it's a platform built miles off the coast out in deep water. Why? Because that's the only place big enough for the world's largest tankers to even dock. It's basically a man-made island totally isolated and built for one single purpose, moving huge amounts of oil.
So how do you even begin to manage the risk in a place like that? Well, you write the rules before a single piece of steel is ever put in place. And that's exactly where this standard comes in. Its purpose is simple and it's absolute. It lays out the minimum mandatory safety requirements. Now that word mandatory is everything. This isn't a list of helpful suggestions. It's a set of non-negotiable laws that cover every single detail, from the type of concrete you use to where you have to place the life buoys.
And this brings us to the very first, and you could argue the most important layer of defense. You design the entire facility so that a fire has literally nowhere to start, and if it does, it has nowhere to go. This is what I like to call the fortress philosophy. It's a simple idea, right? Almost sounds too simple. Before you even think about sprinklers or fire extinguishers, you build the whole structure out of stuff that just won't burn. You engineer the fire out of the picture from day one. And the standard gets incredibly specific. All construction has to be non-combustible. Period. The main decks of the pier, they need to be able to withstand a raging fire for at least 4 hours straight. The escape routes need to have solid steel decking. You can't have grates where flames could shoot up from underneath. Even the big rubber bumpers on the dock have to be made of special materials with a flame spread rating of practically 0. Okay, so you've built a fortress that doesn't want to burn. But let's be real, accidents can still happen. Spills are a huge risk. So what happens if, suddenly, flammable liquid is somewhere it really shouldn't be? You have to imagine the entire facility is basically a giant, super smart drainage system that's designed to control chaos. The deck is built with curbs and a specific slope, so any spill is automatically forced to flow into a sealed catch basin, not into the ocean. The huge loading arms have their own drainage system, and if by some chance something does get into the water, floating booms are right there ready to be deployed instantly. But just containing a spill isn't enough. You've got to stop the flow at the source, and you've got to do it fast. That's the job of something called an emergency isolation valve, or EIV. The easiest way to think about it is like a kill switch for a massive pipeline. And the shutdown process itself is just a masterclass in emergency design. Someone hits a big red button, either right there at the berth or safely miles away in a control room. That triggers an immediate chain reaction. Alarms go off, lights start flashing, and those critical EAIVs automatically slam shut, instantly starving a potential fire of its fuel.
All right, so we've covered prevention, we've covered containment, but what if the absolute worst happens and a fire actually ignites? Well, that's when the fortress finally unleashes its arsenal.
And we are talking about some serious firepower here. The standard says that the fire monitors, which are basically giant remote-controlled water cannons, have to operate at a nozzle pressure of 100 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, that's more than double the pressure of the hose your local fire department uses. And the volume is, well, it's just staggering.
At a big berth, just one of these monitors can shoot out 1,000 gallons of water or firefighting foam every single minute, and a berth might have 4, 5, 6 of these things. We're talking about enough water to fill an entire swimming pool in just a couple of minutes.
And what's really smart is that the system isn't one size fits all. It actually scales with the risk. So for a smaller ship, say under 5,000 tons, you'll have the big monitors on deck and a single line of sprinklers underneath. But for a massive supertanker, over 70,000 tons, you get a full-blown fixed spray system that covers the entire area under the berth. It's a simple formula. Bigger risk equals way more protection. Now here is where the engineering gets really, really clever. You can control these big water cannons with either electric or hydraulic systems. The standard demands electric, but why? Well, think about it. In a massive fire, the oil in a hydraulic line can literally boil. And when that happens, you lose all control. So instead, they specify special fire-resistant electrical cables that are guaranteed to keep working for 2 hours, even in the middle of a blaze.
So let's step back for a second. When you put all of this together, the fireproof construction, the smart drainage, the instant shutdown systems, and the absolutely overwhelming firefighting power, what you get is more than just a boring old set of rules.
You get an unseen shield. This whole complex web of engineering, all dictated by a document like SAES-B-060, is what allows this incredibly high-stakes operation to happen safely, 24/7. It's what protects the workers on that platform, the delicate marine ecosystem, and the flow of energy that, frankly, we all depend on.
And that's really the whole philosophy here, isn't it? The best safety systems, the ones that are truly successful, are the ones you never, ever have to see in action. Because their real job was to prevent the disaster from ever happening in the first place.
It kind of makes you think, right? As you go about your day, what other invisible rule books like this one, these incredibly detailed, life-saving blueprints, are operating just under the surface, quietly keeping our very complex world from falling apart?
If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, How to Do It. Search for us at How to Do 5 for even more interesting content.